Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, back with another Dark Shadows video for you guys and gals. Here to give my reaction and review to episode 38. There's Alexander doing the opening. I love how they do the opening to sea view here. That's what you see. It's They start off far away and then they zoom in. Again, Lila Swift is directing this episode, and Dan Curtis Productions is a huge part of it, obviously. And we start off in the basement. Yes, yes. I love this because we got the basement the last episode, so it's a bit of a refresher of, hey, we heard crying in the basement. They're going to talk about that in this episode. Here's Victoria coming down the steps. The lovely Alexander Isles. I so sorry. I butchered names. She goes right toward the basement door. Nice, nice. And somebody's coming up behind her. Believe this is there. David is Matthew Morgan. Looking for something, miss. She jumps. Matthew, I didn't know anybody was down here. What do you want in there? Nothing, she says. She's wondering what was in there. He's like, I thought I heard Miss started to tell you stay out of this place. Nice, nice. There's no books in that room. Because she says she come downstairs to look for books. There's never books. So there are books, but there are books in the other side of the basement in a corner. So he does. He's warning her some more. He tells her, because remember Matthew found her down here before and he grabbed her by the arm. He doesn't grab her right here at this moment, but he is going to grab her here soon. He tells her, you better get your books and get out of here before Miss Stoddard catches you. So he's warning her again. We're not. Are they going to 180 Matthew in this episode on the paranoia and the loyalty to Mrs. Stoddard? Nope. Nope. And I love it. And here comes the opening. Really, really great job. I love how they always segue the opening. Dark Shadow starts off with a bit of a tease, and then we get the opening. This is a constant theme. Not just hearing the theme, but this is a constant theme you will see in Dark Shadows. There's Vicky. She's going through the books. She looks like she's putting them in something to carry them up. I think she does. There's Matthew. He's still standing behind her. I love Third David's face. He's just looking at her like, really? He's like, you find what you after, miss? So she asked, there were some Rover books down, there were Rover books down here. David said there were Rover books down here in a cart. Hey, I haven't seen them, have you? And he says no. So he says he hasn't seen them. He says, I'm going upstairs now. You better come too. I like this here. Here we go. I think that's a perfect example of his loyalty right there, what he just said, because she's willing to stay down there by herself and look for these Rover Boy books. And he says, you better come upstairs with me. And she goes, what's Miss Stoddard afraid of? That I'm gonna run into a ghost? And he goes, I don't pretend to read her mind, miss. I just listen to what she says. I just do what she says. Matthew would do anything, whether Liz asked it or not. In many ways, how do I put this? Without Liz realizing it, Matthew's, to some degree, because I think Liz does see how loyal Matthew can be. Sometimes Matthew sort of acts on Liz's, well, not sometimes, for the biggest part, he acts on as Liz's avatar, if you will, if you get that reference, or on her behalf, if you will. Um, you better get those books. Watch this. This is good. She does. Thus, books wasn't the only thing you're after, he says. Matthew, do you believe in ghosts? We got two books. Yep, here she goes. So, that's really great right there. Have you ever heard any sobbing in the night? Because she knows Matthew's worked for a long time, right? And he says, Josette Collins, that's who you're talking about. Great job. Great job. Nice. Nice. So you're talking about. So now we have Victoria asking Matthew, you don't actually believe that's her sobbing, do you? That she's asking, does he believe that that's the ghost of Josette sobbing? And he does not hesitate to say, yep, I do believe that. I love Thera David's performance of Matthew. Just in this episode, it's really, really good. We're only 3 minutes in. It's really great. He says she's here, that Josette is here. I really love how when they go down into the basement in these episodes, it looks really cluttery at times. You see the cobwebs. It's a really good set design. Again, Cy Thomasoff, what a master set designer. Really knew his stuff. So he tells her, when you hear that sobbing, uh-oh, here we go. Nice. I love I love how Thera David's Matthew Morgan. I love what he does here. She looks to the basement door. She goes, you wouldn't have a key, would you? And he grabs her. He says, that's what you come down here for, snooping, not for books. The paranoia is real. The paranoia is real. And here he's going back to the first day they met. That is a good point by Matthew. There are a lot of closed off rooms in the house. A lot, actually. The entire West Wing is closed down. The entire. Imagine closing down an entire. If you had like a mansion and you close down an entire wing of your house. Can you imagine? Seriously. It's really well done. Yeah, he's. Now you have Liz hollering for Matthew after they had this discussion about, stay out of that room and stay away from it. I like that right there. You ask about the room, you ask Miss Stoddard. She has the only key. I love Matthew's just pure paranoia here. If want my advice, just do your job and don't ask any questions. I mean, that is so good. It just it tells you that that character is very unhinged, and you already sort of suspected that. Who we got here? Burke Devlin, Mitch Ryan. Nice, nice. What? No Maggie Evans? No, but we have Carolyn, and she's smiling at Burke. Oh, we're in the hotel dining area, the diner, if you will. She said a mystery, I bet, and he says, yeah. So Burke is very delighted to see Carolyn. Carolyn's. She tells her it was safe. It was. He asks, "Are you sure it's safe?" And she said it's safe enough for Victoria. It was safe enough for Victoria Winters last night. Again, we've moved on to the next day. So this is the next day. This is a brand new day. Nice. Nice. Susie, the Count of Monte Cristo. So we hear her name of a different waitress, Susie. You know, Maggie's not it. Maggie's not working the diner, if you will, if that's what you want to call it. And Burke is saying he didn't have much time for reading in school. Good book. He says it's a good book. She asks, she's asking if you wouldn't be the Count of Monte Cristo, would you? So I love what Carolyn does here. She says Burke Devlin comes home from prison to wreak revenge on the Collins family, you know, and he says that you think that's why I'm here. Carolyn does a lot of teasing and a lot of sort of what I call um, quick jab rips. She's often saying something, but she's not really. She has said about this the character herself in an episode where when she says something, she's kind of asking or insinuating, but she doesn't have the full on nerve to insinuate what she really wants to say. And so she's doing that here, and I love that. But because in the same sense, though she has an attraction to Burt Devlin, I don't feel she's flat out accusing him, but she is sort of like, are you really here for legitimate reasons? It's really good. And she says, no, matter of fact, I don't. Obviously, here we see Carolyn, who has been, you know, infatuated with Burke, and she's attracted to him. So she wants what the writers are here in a sense doing. They're doing a love triangle. You have Carolyn, who's infatuated with Burke and attracted to him, and Burke is more interested in Victoria Winters than anything. I I think there's look. Is there a lot of reasons? Sure. Um, yeah, it's because she works for the Collins family, but to him, you know, she's not a Collins herself. So to him, it's somebody he could potentially get information on and believe. But Vicky isn't going to sell her soul, so there is that. Mrs. Johnson will sell her soul. She's not here yet. She's not here yet, but she'll be here eventually. Um, good old Mrs. Johnson. Good old Mrs. J. Who, who wouldn't hire Mrs. Johnson as their secretary or their waitress or whatever? Everybody would hire her. Oh my god. So here's Matthew Morgan. He's up in the foyer. So Elizabeth hands him a list of things to get in town. So they are talking about Burke in this episode, even though he's in this episode. So Liz is going to tell him to take the blame for the breaks in this episode. This is really interesting. I think this is sort of your start of your. It's not the start, but it's let you know. He says who was. He says Bert Devlin wasn't responsible. She says you. She's just so we know that Elizabeth lies because she had Roger lie. Now she's telling Matthew to take the blame for the bleeder valve, to say that you didn't get it fixed, you knew it needed fixed, but you neglected it. And that's what he's telling her. That's what she's telling him to say to people, like if the sheriff asked or something. Yeah, she said. He said, "Asked why." He said, "That's the story. That's the story he told the police." It wasn't Burke. Makes you wonder who it was. It was David. Make me out to be a fool, and she apologizes for it too. Like again, you could tell how much Liz really trusts Matthew too in this episode. If the previous episode and reactions didn't tell you, this really tells you because she's confiding in Matthew. She's telling him to take a bullet here, basically, and he is, not a literal one, but one that could ruin his reputation, and he's willing to do it because he's that loyal to Liz. So he tells her Victoria Winters is down in the basement. And she's still looking through books. She's still looking for those Rover Boy books. She still can't find them either. There are a lot of books down there. And Elizabeth said, I thought you asked you not to come down here. He she's te- she's telling him that's no excuse. I love it. So Liz is scolding her too. Here. Not as hard as Matthew was. Liz isn't gonna flat out grab her. She says, I've heard the wind. The floors creak. Shutters back. Oh my god. Crying. This house. And it does. She says that the wind uh, carries through an open window in a deserted window. Shouldn't you go shut that window? How does that really sound? I really like. I love Liz's story there. That's. She asks her what book she's looking for, and he says She says the Rover Boy books. She tell Vicky tells Liz she can't believe the weeping sound is real. It's real. Great. We're back in the dining room. So Burke is telling about Sam turning down the portrait, trying to talk Burke out of it. And Burke says, asked Carolyn, he wouldn't know why. Carolyn says, I got better things to do than worry about other people. Burke asks her if she's nervous about something. She says, of course not. I'd like more coffee. Two more coffees and some cream. I like how we have another customer in the dining room too. No, she Burke asked Carolyn what's on your agenda. Carolyn said, "I'd leave that up to you." Burke says he'll have to take a rain check on. So Burke says he's posing for his portrait this afternoon. So this is really this is he doesn't he she accuses him of avoiding her. He says I don't want to avoid you at all. And he asks her, do you make friends with your uh, family's enemies? She said, you're not my family's enemy or mine. Burke says he has to drive up to Bangor, and Miss Star says, "Can I join you?" Even when you watch, like when you're watching the black and white episodes, you can tell Carolyn has that lovely blonde hair. It's really, again, the lighting in Dark Shadows is really good. Burke Burke is Burke is reminding Carolyn of how small this town really is too. Burke hasn't, in previous episodes, people were forgetting that People were telling Burke he forgot what a small town is. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. I mean, when he comes into the when he before Mr. Wells walks in the one episode, he goes, hasn't changed a bit. So, oh, Carolyn says next time you have to speak to me, you have to call me. She thanks her for the coffee. I don't think she drank her other cup of coffee. I don't think she touched it. She got another one. I didn't see her touch it. And she leaves her ring. this is this is very Barnabas. But this is pre Barnabas. They remind you. So Vicky tells Elizabeth that Ned Coulter called, and there's the Riverboy books. Yeah. So great interaction this there. So you had Elizabeth asking why she didn't tell wake her and she tell her sooner, and she says that her and Roger were having an argument about Vicky being down in the basement. Victoria tells Elizabeth that, and she said Roger was up last night. Roger heard the sobbing. What did he say? Vicky answers her. Vicky's honest with her. She thinks it was he thinks it was just a ghost or something. And you see Elizabeth. I love Jen Bennett's posture here because she's standing there. She's gripping her fingers, and she goes into the drawing room and she shuts it. And she's gonna call. She's gonna place a phone call. Who you gonna call? Ned Coulter. Operator. I want one this. Portland, Maine. Here we go. Person to person. Mr. Ned Coulter. Very, very nice. And we're back at the dining room. One patron's paying for his food, and Burke's paying for the coffee. And he's holding a book. And in walks Matthew Morgan. He's coming to get a cup of coffee. I love Mitch Ryan's look when he's looking at Matthew Morgan. He's like, huh. He's like, don't I know you? He's like, yep. He's like, Matthew Morgan, you work at the Column? He's like, yeah. He's like, I want my coffee black. She's like, don't you remember me? I'm Burke Devlin. Ooh. I love this here. Burke's like, don't you remember me? And Matthew Morgan turns. He goes, important thing is you better remember me, Burke Devlin, because if you cause Miss Stoddard any trouble, I'm gonna kill you. And he's got the most. Thayer David's eyes are just honed in on Mitch Ryan, Burke Devlin, and he looks like he wants to hit him. Great facial selling by Thayer David. Beautiful. Great job. He says, I really think you mean that. He goes, yep. He said, what if they deserve trouble, Matthew? Matthew, you heard what I said. Suppose they asked for trouble. Yeah. Well, not nobody. Matthew Morgan says nobody at Collinwood's asking for problems, Devlin, nobody. And then we go right back to Collinwood, and it's Carolyn coming home. He says, she says, hello, everybody, I'm home again. And so Carolyn gives Vicky a pen because Vicky wanted to get her pen filled. So even though Carolyn says she left, if the phone rings, don't let anybody answer it, it's for her. Um, she's wanting Burke Devlin to call back because Carolyn left her ring um, at the coffee shop. Again, it's very reminiscent of something we're going to see with Barnabas leaving his cane at the coffee shop for Maggie Evans. Only Carolyn isn't going to try to drink Burke's blood. um, and also, too, even though she gives Vicky a pen here, she says, hey, if you want more ink, tells her where to get more ink. And she says, so we have a confirmation of more people hearing the sobbing. Uh, Vicky says, remember that sobbing I told you heard? And Carolyn says, you heard it last night. And Vicky says, how did you know? Carolyn says, I heard it too. So Matthew Morgan told her to stay in her room, and Carolyn said, I hope you had the good sense to stay in the room. That's what I do. That ghost lady sobs. Ghost. She tells him, she tells her ghost. I really must change. Carolyn's expecting a hot date with Burke Devlin, and here comes Vicky down into the foyer, and there's Elizabeth. Heard that conversation. Nice. She's like, I see my answer still don't satisfy you, and she said it's not that. It's hard to believe. Watch this. She, this is a great. I've talked about how Elizabeth is the best chess player. Um, chess player. She is. She's holding out the key to that basement door that's locked. The only key is the one that she has to that door, and she's holding that key out in her hand, saying, "Well, here's the key. Go see for yourself." It's a great move. And she says, "I said." I just didn't believe. Vicky says, I didn't say I didn't believe you. And she's still offering her the key. Vicky's looking at that key hard. I don't think that'll be necessary. And look at the relief on Joan's face. Great sell job. Like, oh, thank God she didn't call that. That's the end of the episode. Great, great job. Again, just because somebody doesn't necessarily say anything at times on dark shows, you'll have a verbal exchange and really watch the actor or actress's facial expression. Joan's face is amazing. She's got the best poker face. Oh, here's the key. Take it. You don't believe me? And then when she says, no, I don't think that'll be necessary, Vicky does. And when she walks away, you see like the biggest sigh of relief in in Elizabeth Collins Stoddard's face. Great, great acting on DS on these episodes. By the way, this is season 2, episode 3. To be yada yada yada. So that was episode 38 review, guys. I'll be back later today.